been a while.
It's got to seem like it does when we go live on Mondays. Like, hey, oh, yeah, hey. We
Oh,
just kind of pop in. Hey,
yep.
it's Monday.
Mental Health Monday, back again, and we're back again with Christine Mauriello joining us for the third time,
Third time.
fourth time if you count when I was over there.
Yes.
But it's great to have you back. We,
Thank you.
of all the guests we had this year, we figured we needed to end the year with you
Oh,
because you were our first guest,
that's awesome.
and I think you still hold the record for most times on the show. I think a few people have tried to come for your record, but
Gotta send
haven't
that.
made it just yet.
Not yet.
Oh,
But
well, thank you so much for having me back. It's always an honor and privilege.
Oh, no problem.
yes, and so it's been a while since the last time you were here. It was probably about the halfway point of the year. I feel like it was the last time we talked with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a while.
And I'm sure a lot has happened. A lot has been going on. So you want to tell us about what you've been up to?
Well, it's been a busy end of the year. Actually, I was sharing with you a little bit, just my personal journey kind of came to a halt. And I was sharing with a lot of people at the beginning that this last half of the year has been the second hardest time of my life. And the first was my struggle with PNES. The second was this really bad car accident that I was in. I got hit by somebody who was not paying attention, didn't see the traffic stopped, and I had a terrible concussion. Still have the effects of it months later. I had neck and back damage and nerve damage in my right arm and hands, and it was just very, very challenging. And it just like with PNES, it caused my entire life to shut down. I mean, there's nothing you could do. And so I was having like little flashback moments saying like, whew, man, this really, I remember this, but I didn't like that helplessness at the beginning. It was hard. It was really hard to not be able to drive, not really, I mean, the concussion, I couldn't even read. I would look at words and my brain would instantly start to throb and hurt. So I mean, I couldn't move around. I couldn't do fine motor things. It was really intense. And I realized I didn't like it. I didn't like being back at that place. But it took a moment, upon reflection. I was like, okay, I'm not in the same place that I was. At that time, I was very much a loner. I had very few people in my life at that time. And this time it was very different. I've worked really hard at my mental health. I mean, actually, not just my mental health, my overall health, my physical health, my spiritual health, my overall wellness. I've worked really, really hard. And it really showed by how many people, are in my life who are healthy, who are part of a team, in my life. And I had a friend who loaned me a car for as long as I needed because my car got totaled. I had a friend who brought meals every single week. Somebody came and cleaned my entire house. Somebody mowed my lawn. It was just like, it was this amazing outpouring that I didn't experience before. And again, it was just, all that work to have that emotional wellness and have those types of people in my life. But it took work. So it was nice to have that reflection, say, okay, so it's very similar, but it's very different. It's very different. And there was so much gratitude in just even being in that position to say, if I wasn't in this position, I wouldn't know what all this love coming in would look like or feel like. And even though I'm pretty helpless here, I even have a sister, who moved in and just helped take care, because even the normal, same exact thing with PNES. I couldn't do the day to day. I couldn't drive my kids to school or pick them up. I couldn't do all these things. And it was like, oh, the contrast. It was amazing. Yes. It is amazing though. It's hard. PNES is hard. And, depending on whether or not you say, I'm going to fight this and I'm, not going to stop until I'm done. Or, it's a car accident. It's the same thing. You have to fight it. You have to make that decision. So it's been a hard end of the year.
It definitely sounds like it. Yeah. Yeah. I was actually, before we started recording, I was sitting here talking to my friend Phil about, just where I'm at in life right now, I've had a few moments of feeling down about certain things and everything, but feeling that growth over the past year. And I do fall into the all or nothing mentality sometimes, which is where I get very caught up and kind of get myself off course because I'm like, oh, well, I need to be doing this much. Um, and if I'm not doing this much, then I'm failing or something, and to look at where I'm at now and to see whenever certain circumstances get thrown my way, um, and how I've handled that is the clearest thing to me of how different it is from
Mhm.
even just a year ago, um, and even bigger problems that have kind of been very prevalent throughout my life, how I handle a lot of those. I mean, I want to say from the end of October through the majority of November, I went probably like 5 or 6 weeks without a paycheck.
Mm.
And I know at one point in my life I would have went nuts. Like I would have just started panicking and freaking out. And my mother, thankfully, was very helpful during that time period. And um, I was very grateful, but it just again showed me how much times have changed.
Mm.
Because before I would lose my mind, be like, "Oh my gosh, how am I going to make this money? What am I going to do?" No, no, no. And instead, I just kind of remained calm and said, "Okay, here's what I'm going to need to do," and just kept telling myself, "It's going to work out. It's going to be fine." And
Mhm.
so, getting to the beginning of this month and being able to sit down and pay the majority of my bills for the month, and getting back to where I was a couple months ago, you know, that turnaround time is so much shorter than it used to be.
Mhm.
Of knowing, okay, if I just stick to these things, the tools that I have to handle these situations, then the turnaround time is going to be a lot shorter, and I can get back to my life essentially.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's definitely. I've had my struggles with it, with having changed so much when it comes to certain things,
Hmm.
that I'm kind of trying to get used to how that affects my relationships and everything, knowing what's healthier for me and what I have to do in my own life, and kind of putting my foot down on certain things and how that can affect those relationships within my life, other people who don't really get why I'm making certain decisions and stuff like that. And still dealing with PNES, going to work was a big one
Mm.
that I was very nervous about. But luckily, I got hired on at the movie theater, which is a place that I love, and so I'm always happy to be there. I have a much different attitude towards work now as well. But one of my first days there, they tried training me on concessions, and that set it off like that. I mean, I did not last very long in concessions before it just brought on a very negative reaction.
Mm.
And so then I'll get hit a lot from people at work going, "Why don't you ever work concessions?" And I don't really feel like explaining that whole thing to them. I know one thing I started doing at one point this year that I realized wasn't as helpful as I thought was I didn't like getting into the whole explanation of PNES with people. So I
Mhm.
just say, "Oh, I have an anxiety disorder." And I figured that'd be short, sweet, to the point. We could move on. But then that created this other problem of people assuming that they knew what was going on with me because they're like, "Oh yeah, I deal with anxiety." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, but So then I had to explain myself anyways. So I was like, "Okay, well, this backfired."
Mm.
And so like I took on a different job at work the other day, and they started asking me like, "Well, what's the difference between doing this and doing this?" I'm like, I just know myself. I just know that I'm probably more likely to be okay in this position than in this position.
Right.
And even then, I don't even know that 100%, but I'm not going to know
Mm.
until I try. I'm
Mhm.
not going to sit here and tell you I can't do it
Right.
until I know for a fact, yeah, that's probably something I shouldn't do.
Yes.
But
Yeah. It's definitely a know yourself kind of thing.
mhm.
It's definitely, and I applaud you for not wanting to explain yourself because
It's
it
hard because I am a
it's hard.
person who I always feel the need to explain myself with so many things. That's a big challenge for me to stop that from happening
Right.
because I constantly just feel the need to explain myself and my actions when I know that in truth I don't need to do that.
Yes. My cat is decided she wanted to be part of the show. She did this 2 weeks ago. She climbed up in the back of during an interview, and I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah. Nice little cameo appearance.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, a lot of growth, and a lot of it's just baby steps. I've taken a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
little baby steps, and when it comes to certain situations, then I see all of that immense amount of growth that has happened. Rather than being like, oh, why, we'll just use like summer camp as an example. Oh, why didn't we get all of summer camp done and out and finished and looking perfect and all that stuff? And we've had to take a step back several times and say, look at what we did.
Hmm.
We did what we
Yes.
did is not something that people usually do. We put together an entire scripted TV show in a matter of a few months by ourselves,
Mm.
Yeah. No
and
money. Yeah.
no money, no resources, hardly any
Nothing.
team, and but we still did it, and that alone was so much growth. I was rewatching some of our old videos this weekend, and just to see, we've talked about it all year about how with doing the YouTube channel, we don't like to delete the worst of things because it's our progression chart. I mean, we can jump into our YouTube page and pick a point and see how we've grown
Yep.
creatively, personally, and it's definitely a good feeling.
Yes. Yes, it is. I know. I laughed. Said to, oh my gosh, I've said so many times about the YouTube videos that at the beginning there were some that I had to delete because I was confused watching them, and I
Hmm.
thought, if I'm confused watching them, this has no value
Right.
to anybody. It wasn't just a like this sounds terrible, but it's a good message. It was like, what happened here? Like, why did nobody tell me that this is really messed up? But a lot of them, I mean, I would love to delete, a three-quarters of it, until I'm really polished and I'm really good at what
Right.
I'm doing. But that's terrible for people. I mean,
Hmm.
if you can't see, the chronicle basically of your journey, then then we're nothing better than the polished, airbrushed images that get put out there that make
Oh yeah.
people feel terrible and
Hmm.
self-conscious and not good enough. So it's like we have to leave that out there. It's
Yeah.
it's mandatory. We have to leave that out there as much as we don't want to. So
Nice.
yes.
I
Shep.
mean, yeah, I see you looking over at me.
I know.
He's gonna be like, well, hey, at least this guy's been talking more now recently than I used to. I know when we first started doing this, I'd just kind of just quietly sit up and listen to everybody, but now the past year, like he's saying, like it's helped me a lot in life. Kind of explain my not I used to over explain myself to people and
Mhm.
always try to do it in a way that would be like, I don't want to hurt this person's feelings. I don't want them to get upset. So I'm going to say this. And it would never come out the way I wanted it to, or how I truly honestly felt inside. So over the year, you know,
Mhm.
having Chase as a partner to be able to like he said, when we'd have our struggles, it's never like one of those things where it just crumbles apart because one or both of us are just like, nah, fuck it. Like he's somebody that I could hit up right now and be like, yeah, dude, I'm having second thoughts on doing that. Here's the reason why, or anything. He could hit me up saying, today's just a bad day. I can't do the stream tonight. Okay, man, that's cool. That's fine. We'll do it tomorrow. If you're feeling better,
Hmm.
we'll do it next week. It's just
Mhm.
been one of those good things that we
Mhm.
do have a nice little squad built up now over here that is that support system that it's
Hmm.
you don't feel like I'm gonna let this person down or fail, like they're gonna think I'm a failure or something just by
Mhm.
not being able to be human today or whatever the cause may be. We got each other's back, and it's like, nah, dude, that's fine. We'll bounce back. And we didn't get the summer camp out just like that on time, and I'm sure there's plenty of two people groups out there that would have just been disaster for, and it would have just been terrible. But for me and him, it's just been one of those things that's just like, no, just like that. We set out to do something that nobody else here is doing, and it was just for us to do. And now at the end of this, we didn't even do it all the way that we wanted to do it, but we have a whole squad of people here now behind us that are, hey, actors that are, if you guys do something else, holler at us. We'll work in that. People with the
Mhm.
cameras and stuff. So like
Hmm.
we're excited for this next year
Yeah.
because it's like, well, now it's not just, hey, Chase, I'll film you, and then Chase, you can film me. It's like we can
Right.
actually do stuff that it's the two of us in at once.
That's awesome. That
Yeah.
Yeah,
is
so
so awesome.
yeah, so to see the growth and just like he's saying, to be able to sit there and watch it. And I've already had mine out there through my music and stuff. It's like me, you can hear me when I was a kid saying some dumb stuff and now I'm old and I'm like, no, I don't agree with that at all. I don't know who thought that was cool, but it's about getting to watch that journey because I'm a person I like that when I really like an artist of whatever type, I want to see their entire journey up until the moment that I notice them.
Mm.
And you know, it's interesting to me. So I want to leave it all out there for people.
Absolutely. I love what you said about I really, really love and appreciate and recognize the struggle with not doing something all the way. Like you set up with a goal
Hmm.
and you don't get to the 100% mark, you get to the 78% mark, but then you stop. There was, I think it was last year, or the year before, somebody sent me a challenge, push up challenge for veterans, I think for suicide among the veterans. And I started it, I think it was like 22 days, and, every day you add one, and I was like, "I've never done." No, I take it back. You do that many for the whole time. So you do
Hmm.
22 every single day for 30 days, I think it was, and I got to the point, I think I stopped at, like, day 22, and I don't remember why, but there was that temptation to judge myself really
Hmm.
harshly. But I started something knowing full well that I don't do push-ups. Like
Right.
I didn't even know. I mean, my first ones, I put them up on Facebook and I shared them publicly. And my first ones were leaning up against a couch. And so I was not on the floor at that point, but I got like 5 days in and finally I was on the floor. And when I got a few more days in and I was like, okay, I'm really tired or whatever the situation was, I got my kids to participate. I'm like, okay, you do it. We'll just count it off and we'll split this up. And so it was just creative. But it was still challenging not to
Hmm.
look back and say, I didn't complete the 30 days. But the celebration of like, oh my gosh, I did 22 days of push-ups for awareness of suicides within the military. That's an amazing feat.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
mean, goals are
Yeah.
there for a reason, but it doesn't mean that every day that you succeed in doing that goal, that's not a success on its very own.
Hmm.
We need to
Oh yeah.
recognize that.
Yeah.
So I'm
We.
glad
Well,
that you all are celebrating what you did.
oh yeah. And that
Yeah.
that's one of the things we've talked about too has been in the fact that like how much we've learned over doing that and so like it's not a failure that we didn't hit it 100% to our satisfaction what was in our brains when we set up to do this series. It's like but like hell, I know me and him at one point before we even started filming go, it's a good possibility that we're going to have to play all these characters in this ourselves,
Yeah.
and like, so we went full on knowing like nobody might be on board with this. Everybody might read our scripts and, think this is silly. I don't want to do this. And if I'm
Hmm.
not getting paid. So to be able to sit back even right now and watch 6 episodes, probably like 2 hours worth of stuff and be
Hmm.
like, yo, we did that. Okay, that's
Right.
it. And like
Yeah.
we have the ending. It's like it's not like we're never gonna put out the finish. Like it's going to get
Right.
finished, but we're not bound and constricted to NBC guidelines right now. We can
Right.
put our ending out a year from now if we feel like it.
Which is a
Exactly.
conversation that we've had with ourselves multiple times over the years, and I'm sure we are going to continue to have
Oh yeah.
moving forward. Of every now and then when we get really stressed out about things, we have to remind ourselves that there is no boss above us. We are chasing Shep. We we are the ceiling. So we're not answering to anybody. So the only people we have to worry about, is us. And so
Hmm.
we get to make those calls. If we want to change the release date on something, that was only our goal to
Yes.
make. So the only person we're gonna disappoint is us.
Yeah.
But like you said, doing we had such grander ideas to begin with, but we also knew this might not happen.
Yeah.
It was definitely a dream. We just shot high and then just worked with what we had from there. And even then, like you said, we have the last two episodes almost completely finished. They're all filmed and pretty much ready to go. There's just a few things that we haven't been able to get to because life happens. And it was one of those things where we had to step back and say, yeah, we did 6 episodes already. Uh,
That's so cool.
we essentially made a over a 2 hour long movie over the course of a few months, and
Yeah.
it was impressive to us. I even said to somebody the other day, I said, I don't care if anybody else likes this. I am impressed with ourselves. And I just need the one person to see it that says, hey, if we gave these guys money, I could see what they could do.
Mhm.
And I see our own growth there, and that's all that matters. So we're excited for next year to take everything that we learned from that experience and put it into the next thing and let that be even better than summer camp was.
That's awesome. That is
Yeah,
so awesome.
yeah, I feel like that's kind of how I've always went with goals, because eventually, like I am one of those people, you don't really hit 100%, but eventually if you keep taking the lessons you're learning and applying them to
Mhm.
that next goal and taking them and applying them, you're going to eventually start hitting 100%, because
Yeah.
you're, unless you're your
Absolutely.
own person stopping you from that.
Right.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
you could use like old school video games as an example. Just the
Oh
well,
my
if you've played the level enough times, you know exactly what you're doing, and you can
God.
just zip through it 100% the level, no
Yeah.
problem. But you're gonna have to lose a few times in order to
Oh
learn
yeah.
all the
All the
where you
tricks.
where you need to jump, where you need to
Mm.
duck, where you need to do this.
Yeah.
Uh, or there's the flip side, and you get frustrated and you just never play the game again. So
I mean, you just might find out that it's not the game for you, and
yeah,
Exactly.
it's try a game that you like.
which is also something I had to kind of have a conversation with myself about this year. For so
Mhm.
long, I've told myself I wanted to be a filmmaker. This is my dream. And then, to get to this year where we are actually doing it and being more involved with such a thing, some of the realities of the fantasy of being a filmmaker started coming to light. And I had to face those
Mm.
fantasies. I had to say, is this really what I want? Is this really what I want to do? Because, yes, there's all of the fun stuff that we usually think about that comes with storytelling and filmmaking and everything. But then there's a lot of work that goes into it. And there's a lot of things that uh, you know, we don't necessarily want to have to do. I know some YouTubers bending over backwards to appease their fan base and stuff. And
Mm.
we like our show because we do it for us at the end of the day. And we like helping other people, we like bringing joy to other people. But I never want to get to a point where we're just doing things to appease other people, to pander to an
Mhm.
audience. I
Yeah.
have no interest in doing that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And that was something I had to kind of ask myself moving forward. Do I really want to work for big studios, or am I
Yeah.
okay just at this level for the rest of my life?
Yeah. No selling out. Big time, no selling out. That was one thing. Even before I was doing the YouTube videos, but I started looking at, I started looking at these organizations, these bigger organizations, which represented mental health. And
Hmm.
it was really heartbreaking because if you dug just a little bit, you saw who was financing these individuals who were on a board, the decision makers, and they were pharmaceutical companies. I mean, they were always a pharmaceutical company, and it was just heartbreaking. And of course, there was some story of there's investigations into, and I just thought, this is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. And I'm sure it must be very tempting. But you know what? I think that we may have a benefit where we're starting where we're not doing it for anybody else. We're doing it for the one. So we can
Hmm.
keep that one in our view and our focus and say, okay, this isn't aligning with my goals and my purpose. And I don't know, I mean, even for individuals who are watching this, I remember, this might be beneficial to you too, but um, I remember learning about making a mission statement and a vision statement, not just for your company, but for your life. And the benefit of making these, like writing them out, as far as like what I stand for, what I will do, what I won't do,
Hmm.
is that you have this matrix, so to speak, that you can bounce every decision that you're going to make based off of, well, does this align with my vision? Does this align with my mission? And if it doesn't, if my vision is about being authentic and real and coming from a place of, pure heart, then aligning with somebody who their motives are very different,
Hmm.
that's an automatic no. But a lot of us, that temptation to align, it clouds our judgment. So having something written out where you just get in the habit of saying, like, does being on this show, does this align with my purposes
Hmm.
and my vision and mission? And it's just really good. No matter what level you're at, you don't need to have your own show. These are decisions that you make in everyday life, even in
Hmm.
response to, is this a good person to align with? Even as a friend, well, what do they stand for? Does it align or contradict with what do I stand for? And I mean, these are really, really important skills. So I
Hmm.
love, this whole stand of do not sell out. I love where we're coming from, where we're not doing this out of buckets of money. We're doing this out of a passion and a desire to help people. And
Mhm.
so it kind of helps us keep it in alignment. Like that's where we want
Hmm.
to stay.
Yeah, we know we're going off course when we have to start asking ourselves, are we having fun? Are we enjoying ourselves and what we're doing?
Mhm.
Or are we just incredibly stressed out right now? And we definitely hit that point a few times this year.
Mm.
And that's not to say there won't be more stresses in the future, but I think we're getting to the point, as we've said before, year one of chasing Shep was just throwing shit at a wall and seeing what would stick. And I definitely think going into the second year, we kind of have a better idea of what works and what stresses us out, what's a bit too much. And so we can go into that second year kind of alleviating a little bit of that stress.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But I agree with what you're saying about just not selling out, just having uh, your stance on life, and kind of sticking to that in your character. And I know a big thing for me recently. I mean, I pretty much my whole life have just been a hopeless romantic, and I always looking to be in love with somebody. And after the last few breakups in my life that had such big impacts on me, the very last one 2 years ago did it in for me. And after
Mhm.
that, I was like, I can't keep doing the same things over and over and over again. So, I, you know, even though I'll talk to friends and complain about, oh, I've been single for over 2 years, like it's self inflicted, and I don't mind it. I know why I've been single for 2 years, and it's because
Mhm.
I what you said about aligning myself with certain people. Before I would meet somebody who I would like them, I would enjoy spending time with them. And if they liked me back, in my head, I would start formulating ways to, okay, how do I make this work as a relationship rather than asking myself, should we make this a relationship or should we keep it
Mhm.
as it is?
Mhm.
And I find myself doing that a lot more often lately. uh, and it gets mixed results where it's like at first people are a little upset when I'm so direct with them and being like, I don't want a relationship, and here's why. But once we get past that awkward initial conversation, I feel like all the people I've had that conversation with tend to end up respecting it because we just bypassed a lot of hurt that would have happened otherwise. And it's like, I've
Mhm.
been there. I don't want to go through it. I don't want to inflict it on anybody. I
Right.
know they feel the same way about it. So let's just have a hard conversation. You know
Mhm.
about do you really like me? Because I had to ask somebody recently, why do you think we would make a good couple? And she responded by saying nice things about me, which, in my head, I already thought she likes the idea of me, but I don't think she is thinking about the reality of us as a couple.
Mhm.
And so when she said all those nice things about me, it was very nice to hear, but it kind of just reaffirmed what I thought of, okay, you like this idea of me as a person, but would we make a good couple? Down
Mhm.
the line, is this going to be the best thing for us? Or should we keep what we have now instead of throwing that away to make something work because we feel like we have to?
Mhm.
And I definitely tried not to do that anymore. I try not to do things because I feel like I have to do this. You just have to look ahead and sometimes behind. You got to look behind sometimes too at the things that have already happened and think to yourself, am I about to do the same thing I always do? And
Mhm.
we talk about it a lot on the show about just learning those lessons of the past.
Wow. I love that because if you're a navigator or you know you're traveling and you go 1 degree off, you end up in a completely different destination. So just as in life, you make one change in your life and the destination now is going to be different. And the
Mhm.
beautiful thing is on if you're in a growth path, a personal growth path, then you're going to continue to do these little steps. And it's going to be so different from where you started when you began that journey. I love that. I love that. Mm.
Yeah, and it's definitely I've had to remove myself from the all or nothing mentality, especially in the past couple of months of seeing all of this growth that has happened in the past few years, just in this year alone, and knowing that if I continue at the rate I'm going, I will eventually become the person I'm trying to become. I'm not going to become perfect overnight. I'm not going to become, just this zen enlightened person all in one go. It's going to take some time, and there's always going to be those hardships, and it's
Right.
just, like I said earlier, every time you hit that hardship, that's where you're going to be able to measure that growth just based off of the way you handle it.
That's all right. Mhm. All right, it's your
Just
turn, Shep.
right, you're right.
My well, I mean, I definitely agree with what you're saying, bud, over there. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, of just being honest, and some people don't like the directness when you're going in on
Hmm.
circumstances like that. But I mean, I'm a few years older than you too, so I've already been on that journey of just being direct with people because it's like I'm old enough that not trying to waste time here
Hmm.
or do anything. But the person, like, I don't know, man. I lost my train of thought.
Did you say that you're older than both of us, or are you talking about him?
I think about
Him.
me.
Oh, I
Him.
was
About
gonna
me.
say, like, I don't think that you're older than me.
I'm 34. That's not too old, but I mean, it's old enough that I ain't
Flip
trying
the
to waste
numbers.
time.
That's how old I am.
But
Yeah. It is a
just
hard thing, though. It is. I mean, I appreciate what both of you are saying because here's the thing: is a lot of people. I go back time and time again. I talk about this book, Boundaries, and
Hmm.
about understanding character discernment, right? And not just. I think so many people, have a rough time with rejecting somebody from your life because you've done this, you've seen this already.
Hmm.
You're picking up clues of something that you've seen or done in the past. And you're like, I don't want to take that ride again. And
Mhm,
it's so
mhm.
important. But a lot of us battle with, like, oh, I don't want to hurt this person. But the thing is, just as we're all talking about how the hardships help us, the hardships will help other people too.
Hmm.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, that's what they're there for. It's really to help us to grow as characters. And if we're trying to prevent people from being in pain, one, we're being a little controlling, and two, we're stopping their growth. So if
Hmm.
if we can't be honest about it, but it is hard. I don't want to say that it's not hard because we are saying, this isn't going to work out, and
Hmm.
this is why. But just sticking with our guns on like I said, I don't want to go in this roller coaster again. I already know what
Right.
it's like, and it doesn't end well. And so,
Hmm.
but I'm proud of you both for coming to those hard conversations and keep plowing through and saying, that's not what it's going to be like.
Yeah, I know we've talked about it before. We may have even talked about it with you before when you've been on the show. I feel like people get confused when it comes to confronting people. Like they think it has to be from a negative place, and it
Mm,
doesn't. We just were talking the other day about how anytime that I know that I'm being an asshole to somebody, I know that it's coming from a good place. I know it might not like it, but I know that it's not coming from a detrimental place.
you're not trying to
You know
hurt anyone.
exactly. I am only trying to benefit the other person by saying, "Hey, you might need to hear this," and if that's too much, like I've always been that kind of friend who, I especially my best friend who was running around here earlier, I had to hit a point with him where I realized that I was keeping him from his own growth, by helping him out and trying to prevent his pain and stuff.
Yes.
And eventually, I finally had to say, you know what? I think you need to move out. I think you need to go and make your own mistakes and it's sink or swim time, buddy. And then he's grown a ton in the 2 years since, and he wouldn't have been able to have that growth if I continued to keep that pain at bay. You know, and that's I'm not even keeping the pain at bay. I mean, he's still dealing with all of this pain,
Mm,
but he needed to get out there and learn how to deal with that pain, rather than just sit in it and have me prevent him from hitting his own rock bottom so that he could start his upswing.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
But
Yes. Need
yeah,
choice.
it can be hard. It can be very hard to tell. So I had a buddy the other day who came over and was telling me some stuff that he was upset about, and I just sat there and I listened. But the truth was, as I was listening to all of this, there was a conversation to be had with him about some of the things that he was doing, and it's not something that you necessarily want to hear when it's like, hey, I'm sad about this thing, and for your buddy to go, you might be part of the problem. You need to look at this, because for me, if I'm considering myself to be your friend and I don't tell you this part, the hard part, if I don't tell you, who is going to tell you?
Mhm.
I'm your friend. I'm your close friend. I should let you know, hey, you're holding yourself back here. I need to let you know this bit of information. What you do with this information is on you. I don't care past that point, but it is my job as your friend to let you know that maybe you need to take a look at yourself in this scenario if you ever want to improve this, because I see that you end up in the same situation over and over and over again, and there may be a reason for that.
Mhm.
So as your friend, here's what it could be. What you choose to do with that information past that point is on you. So,
Hmm.
got to have those hard conversations.
I vibe with that. You definitely do. And it never comes from a place of, you're not just saying that to hurt them or break them down. You're only saying that because you
Right.
care about them and you want them to get better. So it's like, this is from my perspective. This is what I'm seeing. And
Mhm.
sometimes that outside set of eyes on the situation does help.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Especially, what I find the easiest way is by sharing something that was very humbling for me. And I'll start with that. It's like,
Mhm.
listen, I've been in situations where I made a decision and I thought it was the right thing, but obviously my motives were wrong about how I made the decision. And when I'm looking at this, I mean, it's just really important to show, like, I'm not looking down on you. In fact, I have made so many mistakes. I have a whole YouTube channel and
Right.
it's fantastic. There's so much material. Um, but it's just really important, I think, to be humble, when you're presenting something. If you come from and you do this wrong, and I don't see it in either of
Right.
you,
Yeah.
but you're right. If people are questioning, like, well, how do I even do that? This person is doing this. Well, can you relate to them in any
Mhm.
respect? Can you say, I was in a hard situation and I realized that I had a part in it. I was in a bad relationship and I realized that I had a part in it. And it's just, we're never faultless. I mean, there are a few times in our life or a few events in people's lives where they're truly 100% no part of it.
Mhm.
There are a few circumstances like that, but the vast majority, there is a part in it. Whether it is that you stayed in the relationship or
Mhm.
you prevented the person from going through painful situations. It's just, that's the important part, is to learn and grow from it. Where did I contribute to this?
Mhm.
How can I learn so that if I go back, and one thing that I say to a lot of people is, if I go back and change it, how could I do it better? Right. So it's not about like, oh, I should have, but in more of a positive way, just kind of changing the perspective, saying, how could I do that even better?
Mhm.
Right. I know that there are some things that I could improve on. So what are those things that I could improve of, just to keep us from beating ourselves up?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Shep and I both have talked about it before, of just being the kind of people that when we leave a relationship, we think a lot about what we may have done,
Hmm.
uh, as opposed to the other person. It's like, yeah, we could go on just a laundry list of things the other
Oh, yeah.
person did all day long, but what good does that do us at the end of the day?
Right.
Whereas, we look inward, and we realize, okay, here are the things that I did in this relationship that probably weren't the best, and that I could change in the future to maybe avoid these other things.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. There's a
Definitely.
long list
Oh
for
yeah.
me. I know there's a long list. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we always preach the self-reflecting a lot because I
Right.
find more in that than because you know, a lot, like the saying goes that a lot of people's actions or the problems they're dealing with themselves. So especially when it comes to relationships, like I was only in one this past year, so looking when I was looking back at that, it was more reflecting on my actions, how I reacted to situations or handled situations or didn't handle situations, and if I liked that about myself or didn't. You know, ways that I could change that or improve it. So if, you know, I do get into a relationship in the future, I don't go down those same paths or make those same wrong choices. So there's a lot that can come just looking at yourself. I feel like
Oh yeah.
personally to me, I find, you know, more of a lesson in that than if I just harped in on, you know, that person was wrong 100% and what did they do
Right.
wrong and they messed up and I'm fine. It's on them. I feel like you're just going to be dead in the water at that point.
Yeah, and it's just a sign of our immaturity. It doesn't mean, that we're bad people. It's just that
No,
we're
no.
lacking in our maturity. Because I know there were a lot of relationships in the past where I could list everything that they did wrong, but the thing was, I had blinders on. I never saw
Hmm.
what I did. I mean, there are two people in the relationship, but the farther I got away from it, and the more I realized, and there were some hard walls. PMES was one of them. It's like, whew, okay, I guess I had some parts in this, and I had to go back in order to
Hmm.
heal. I had to go back, and it was such a beautiful journey of self discovery. And I do say, with some caution, that if you tend to take ownership of everything, like it's really important to just say, there are things that the other person did, and I'm just going to leave that with that person. It's their job for reflection.
Hmm.
But I noticed for myself, I actually let everyone off the hook, and I forgot to do that for myself. So I forgave everyone, but then it was like, oh, I'm such a horrible person. Da, da, da. It's like, oh wait, I'm
Hmm.
missing the very vital point. I have to forgive myself. I have to
Mm-hmm.
let myself off the hook so that I can move forward. Instead of bringing like this, um, the old ball and chain, just
Hmm.
bringing this pile of stuff with me that it's not helpful, and it just makes me feel shameful, and brings new people that are very reflective of the old people
Hmm.
that were in my life. So yeah, yeah, I'm with both of you. I'm intentionally not in a relationship because, to be honest, I've set my standards so high, and not like unrealistically high,
Hmm.
but at a level that I'm not going to compromise. And I know in order to meet somebody like that and have them be interested in somebody like me, I need to be the healthiest whole person that I can be.
Hmm.
So I'm at a standstill. I'm like, I'm totally fine being single because I'm not willing to compromise. I'm not compromising anymore in life.
Yeah,
Hang out
that's
with
that's
people.
exactly where I'm at as well. Is just I know what it is that I want, and I know that if that's what I want, the best way to go about it is to continue to focus on myself and to better myself.
Mhm,
Because I know there are still things that I'm working on that I need to take care of, in my own personal life. That if I can't take care of those things on my own, how's that going to affect a relationship?
mhm,
And yeah, I also just am at a point where I don't want to compromise. I know what I want, I know what I don't want at this point, and like you said, it's not unrealistic expectations by any means, but I've definitely been a lot more hands off when it comes to relationships now. It's just like if it's gonna happen, it will happen. If it's right, it's right.
mhm.
And not trying so hard to make something happen. And the
Yeah.
hopeless romantic in me that's been there my whole life, striving for that. It's not to say I'm not still a hopeless romantic, but I know how to dial it back now. I'm not trying so hard for that. I'm just putting my faith in it'll come my way. The right thing
Mhm,
will come my way.
mhm. Yeah.
It will. It will in its due time, my man. You know, because yeah, I mean, that's just how I've been the whole year. It seems like. I mean, we've been staying busy as is,
Hmm.
and when I tried the one relationship, it was one of those because it wasn't on the apps and all that shit these days. It was just in person, and
Hmm.
one thing led to another, and it's like, yeah, I dig you, you dig me, fine, let's try it. And man, the stress that came along with that, even still to try to maintain all the friendships,
Mhm.
all the extracurriculars that I'm doing here with streaming music, this and that.
Mhm.
And then now I've got this extra person here that I've got to remember her thoughts and feelings
Mhm.
and likes and dislikes, and she wants to live a life too and might want to go on trips and this and that. And it's just so stressful that to me it was like, I'm 34. I'm very content with where I'm at in life right now. Um, I had one of those thoughts with myself is like, I've seen plenty of older people by themselves. Maybe this is just what happened. Maybe you hit a point where you're like, I just don't need that. I've had that plenty back in the past, and I'm good. Like I love it because I hang out with my grandfather. He just turned 85 this year, and I was hanging out with him the other day, and we were both saying the same thing back and forth to each other. Because ever since my grandmother passed away, he's out there, and there's a lot of older people out there. So he talks about this lady that'll always come by in the summer and be like, "Come on, let's go get a cheeseburger or something." And he just like now he's like, "I just close my garage and I go inside and I say I'll cook one in here." He's like, because I know where that goes. He's like, I know exactly where that goes. And he's like, he's like, I'm working on machines. I'm doing my thing. I don't want somebody to come in here and start nagging and
Mhm.
telling me to do this, do that. And I can't do this anymore. And he's like, just happy. I'm content. And it's like, I'm right there with you, man. I am very content with where I'm at. I've got
Yeah.
my son. He's a teenager now. And it's like, the
Yeah.
goals over the year, the goals have
Mhm.
shifted so much for me that it's like, nah, the stuff that I need or want to do in life, for me, it would be so much less stressful and easier on
Yeah.
all parties if I just go about that myself,
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think everybody here is probably, if we had a partner, right? But a partner would have to be an equal match, not the same
Mhm.
exact person, but somebody that is
Mhm.
compatible with, so it's not like don't get me wrong, if you add somebody into your life, it's always going to cause an upset, right?
Right.
You're going to have to shave away time that is usually given somewhere else to this new person. But if they are a value, if they're a benefit to your life, to your kids' lives, my kids' lives, and my situation, then that is worth the sacrifice, because that's what
Oh yeah.
love is,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Love
Mhm.
is all about sacrifice. I mean, it's a beautiful sacrifice. So I'm not against, I'm
Oh no.
definitely not against relationship or
Mhm.
against love, and I don't think
Right.
either of you are either, but it's just, our
Mhm.
standards are high, and
Yeah.
not like this. I don't know, I've heard so many terrible stories in this generation of lowering the standards. I'm like, "Stop it.
Yeah.
Please know who you are. Know that you have value. Don't lower the
Well,
standards."
because you might not realize it, in 2 or 3 months. It might take you 10 years to realize like you made a mistake by lowering those standards. And now, a decade later, you're in a marriage or wherever with somebody.
Mhm.
And it's like, man, if I would have I realized this 10 years ago, if I would have stuck to my guns then, there's ten years you would have had. And no, I
Mhm.
mean, it's the same. Like with my past relationship, it was kind of the same. Like that's why we took a little break over the summer of right before we were filming summer camp and stuff. Cause, I communicated over to him just that, like, yo, I like this girl. I want to figure out how to balance all this. I want to build this bond with her to where I can go off and be doing this, or have a week where I don't, 2, 3 weeks, or you're going to see me once or twice over those 2, 3 weeks. And there's no anxieties there of, well, maybe she'll go find somebody else. Maybe I'll go find somebody else. And now we're arguing stupid arguments just because we're stressed for dumb reasons. So
Mhm.
if somebody's worth it, definitely for sure. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ain't
And
going
that's
out of
the
my way to
thing.
find it these days. What I'm saying, like, you ain't catching me on all the apps out there, hey, and DNs and stuff.
Yeah, and that's definitely something, like you said, goals have shifted over the year. And, this year was the first year of my life where I genuinely l- lived the life that I wanted to, as far as being a creative goes. I mean, I've talked my whole life about making movies and doing this sort of stuff. And 2020, I kind of dipped my toes in the water there. And but 2021, we just went in on it. We just went for it. And now here we are at 1 year of doing the show, which is a monumental thing for myself to have been doing something for that long continuously, and with no signs of stopping anytime soon. And now when people want to get into a relationship, I do feel that, for me, if I really care enough to sacrifice for that person, I'm going to be like, yeah, let's make plans. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let me set aside this time. But I keep finding myself wanting to spend more time doing other things than spending time with these people who are, oh, I like you. And that to me just tells me, okay, maybe this isn't the
Mhm,
path I need to go down. Maybe I should continue to
mhm,
focus on my work instead. Because as you're saying as well, finding somebody who's supportive, who
mhm,
clicks in that way. We don't have to be identical people by any means, but in my mind, my person is going to want to do these things as well. As far as the creative side of things, they will recognize how important this is to me and be supportive of that, whether they are involved with it or not. They will be understanding that this does take up a lot of time. This is a very time consuming career path. um, and we would make it work.
mhm,
And it's just all those things have kind of come to light recently of what is important, what is not important in my life, just
mhm,
prioritizing, I suppose.
mhm.
But
That's
yeah,
awesome. That's awesome. Interesting twist on our conversation,
I know.
folks.
didn't
Right.
didn't know they'd be getting that Valentine's stream so early.
I
Yep.
know.
Well, then
We
But
everybody on the Mental Health Monday keeps telling me to do the relationship thing after dark,
yeah,
and I'm like, I don't know about all that.
send in your love questions to Shep.
That's funny. Well,
Yeah.
it's funny because now the holidays is a very lonely time for people.
Hmm.
And having this conversation is really pertinent because we can be intentionally single. Like we're
Hmm.
all intentionally single and we're intentionally single for purpose,
Hmm.
right? So it just even I don't know. I mean, I think that our life goals, just the same way as I was talking about the mission statement, vision statement, the person on my list is going to fit in that.
Hmm.
It's not going to be, oh, I have to erase this and oh boy, this doesn't align. Right. I'm not doing that. I'm
Hmm.
not saying that I won't compromise some things, as far as
Right.
what's convenient, for me, because that's again, it's sacrificial. But, during the holidays, it can be a lonely time if you are not intentionally single. So I think it
Hmm.
is a very pertinent conversation for today. So
Definitely.
let's talk about what we did, like what are our go tos when we're feeling lonely during the holidays? Have you guys ever had that?
Well, I'm still having that. I'm still that's been a big struggle of mine.
Mm,
Not just during the holidays, but the past couple of years. I'm thrilled to have Phil back because, especially after he moved out, like I went through my breakup at the end of 2019, and then he pretty much moved in a few weeks later and was there for like 8 months. So I never fully got to have that sense of loneliness because I still had somebody in my house with me. But then
mhm,
after he moved out, it was just a very quick downhill thing where that loneliness, that sense of loneliness just got stronger and stronger. And I've definitely been feeling it very heavily the past like 2 months.
mm,
But one thing that I've, in keeping with character, that is very important to me is not succumbing to that loneliness,
mhm,
because that just goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where the things get messy. Things get messy quick, and it's like, yes, there might be somebody who's interested in me and might want to do this, that, and the other. But if I don't see a relationship happening, I'm not the kind of person who's willing to do other things with them, because then things are just going to get messy and complicated, and that's just not the place I'm in right now. But I do get the struggle of loneliness and wanting to succumb to that and think, oh well, this person's interested, so I can keep them around and I can have somebody to snuggle with during the holidays and all this. But ultimately it's not going anywhere, and at the end of that road is just heartbreak for somebody, if not both of you. And
right.
so it is
I've
a
been
matter of
there.
just being mindful, and not getting into a situation that's going to hurt multiple
Mm,
people. Yeah.
that's really good. What about you, Chef?
So like I a year ago, last Christmas would have been like the season that all hit for me. That I was
Mhm.
feeling like, dang, there just a lot of friends not really doing much because
Mhm,
COVID and all that stuff. And that's when you go watch all the holiday movies. I was trying to watch the movies from like childhood, and it's like Home Alone and all that stuff, and it's like families, all this and that. So there's a lot of people that their families aren't even around for the holidays, and I was
Mhm.
like, man,
yeah.
So where I found my comfort, which was what started this whole Chase and Shep thing, was watching. I was like, I love horror movies, so I'd rather watch horror movies with a Christmas twist. So at least, here's this beautiful, oh, here's the Hallmark family, and then just all hell breaks loose, and you're like, all right, okay, I can get in. I can get in with this spirit.
Oh, goodness.
But like this year has been one that is it's been different because over the course of the year, we've gained friends that actually now they're like, well, I bought you Christmas gifts. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
why'd you do that? Now I have to buy you Christmas gift. Like, I'm not used to this.
There
So
was no arrangement.
no. And it's like, nah. And they're like, no, you don't have to do that. I buy you a gift because I want to. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to buy you a gift now. And it's, so I'm excited for that because it's been the first time since I can even remember that I've had a group of friends that were like that with one another and wanting
Hmm.
to do stuff like that. So even though, like right now with COVID, my family's Christmas is getting pushed back because I had a couple family members come down with COVID and stuff, and we're just trying to be safe. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I know that was back on Thanksgiving, and now it's Christmas, and we'll just wait it out. Um, so having that group of friends now that over the course of the year, being open, being honest, going out, showing our lives now on the internet more so because I've kind of been on Snapchat. I was always like this and that, but I've tried to be a little private as I could in life.
Hmm.
Um, it's gained this group of friends that now it's like the spirit, the holidays are stressful, but good still. Cause I got something to look forward to, but I've always had my son though too. So I've always had
Mhm.
some reason to be excited and happy and get gifts and go all out for somebody. So I do think that was like the blessing for me is having him at such a young age is like a lot of this depression through the holidays and stuff, even if I wasn't around my family or anything, just never really sunk in because I was always more worried about, let me make sure the Christmas is baller for him like I remembered when I was a kid, type of thing. So
Mhm.
that's usually what I try to do. And then on top of that, it's just I just this time of year you run into a lot of people that are in terrible moods. So
Hmm.
the way that I go about my way to do it is to try to just be overly respectful and nice to everybody out in public that I'm seeing, and
Mhm.
and and have that bit of relief that they see of somebody that is like, I get it, I've been there, I get it, and they're just like,
Hmm.
thank you. And
Right.
it's like, no, it's
Yeah.
all good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think
Yeah.
for me, back in my gosh, back in my lonelier days, I'll call them. Um, I didn't know what to do with myself, and so I was struggling a lot. My brother had committed suicide, and the holidays were always hard because that was a very painful
Hmm.
reminder that he wasn't here anymore. And so it's been 15 years at this point. And but I remember that I did not want to be thrown into the pits of depression, which I at that time was so easy to do. So I thought about how I could honor him. And what kept coming up was like, learn to serve other people, to honor him, like honor him by serving other people. And so I remember different occasions, going to feed the homeless or just even making a video on the holiday
Hmm.
in his honor. There're just a lot of things. And so, I, like you said, Shep, there's a lot of people not in great ways. And if you are alone, I'm telling you, doing nice things for other people is very selfish because what you get in
Hmm.
return is incredible. Like it's not an even exchange, I promise you.
Yeah.
And so it's
Mhm.
just thinking about, these anonymous, like sending greetings to people. Just get like a stack. I don't know if you guys have Dollar Tree,
Hmm.
but we have Dollar Tree, and you can buy like a bunch of holiday cards or thinking of you cards, and just go to a nursing home and just anonymously deliver just something beautiful. Find an Emerson quote or something to make them brighten their day, make it special. But I think that was always for me what really helped me was helping make that day special for somebody else.
Hmm.
I knew it wasn't about trying to make it special for me. because I was totally out of control out of that. If I wanted to be with somebody, guess what? I wasn't with somebody. If I didn't have the kids for that holiday, then I didn't have the kids for that. I couldn't change that. But the only thing I
Right.
could change was how I felt, in that moment. And there are so many things. I mean, I started before we got on air about talking about gratitude, just sitting and thinking about some of my favorite memories is again just this boost in serotonin that makes your mind think. And for me it usually leads to getting out some canvases and some paints and things like that, just to keep going with that feeling.
Hmm.
Because if we're going down one path, with negative feelings, or we're going down the positive feelings, it just leads somewhere. I mean, as long as we stay on the path, it will lead somewhere. But we can always, jump into the other path. It's just being intentional, like you were talking about, Chase, is being intentional about it.
Hmm.
So,
Yep. Phil and I were just talking about it in regards to work, because we both work at the movie theater, and we're the old guys at work because the majority of the people that work at the movie theater are teenagers, and it's one of those things, especially having been out of work for so long and just doing our stuff and everything, and then to go back to a minimum wage hourly job. I had a different attitude about it, and Phil and I both, like, anytime we go in, we just like to bring a good vibe because we know it's work. They feel like it's work. We
mhm,
love the movie theater, so we're happy to be there. This is our happy place. So we go in there and we are joking around. We will just compliment people. We always just try to bring a good vibe to work, because it's gonna affect everybody. It's gonna help in the long run, because
mhm,
there's plenty of negative Nancy's at work who are just gonna bitch and moan that they're even there in the
mhm,
first place. And it's like, you gotta give them something to look forward to, I guess. So we definitely, and the Chase and Shep show has been, that's a big drive for us. With Mental Health Monday, we like doing it because we now know, we've got confirmation from people that we do help people. We've had several people. This is the one show that if we are late on, we will hear about it. Like, if we miss a week of Mental Health Monday,
Yep.
that's the episode where we're like, was there a Mental Health Monday tonight and we missed it? Um, and that makes us feel good. I think we've both gotten messages from people personally that are just very long messages that are just thanking us for doing this. And like we've said before, even if it's just those 5 people, we'll
Mhm.
keep doing this because it's important for those people. We've found for us, when we miss Mental Health Monday, it has an effect on us. Even if we don't really have much to talk about, we've definitely had our times where we took like 2 or 3 weeks off, and we just felt so stressed out because we didn't take the time on Monday to get our minds right, and to just kind of reset and regroup. And then everything else we do as well, whether that's summer camp or any of the other streams, we always do it just to bring joy.
mhm.
We're never really trying to bring anybody down or anything like that. And it's a very good feeling, a very selfish thing.
Although we did have our first member get a 24-hour ban on the Chase and Shep Facebook page for going
Ooh,
against community standards
Oh,
today.
did we?
That was Pudgy on, well, what will be last week's Mental Health Monday, when he said he was going to. He commented saying he's going to slap me around, which was in a joking manner there, Zuckerberg, but they did not take that
Oh,
jokingly.
so that's why he's in Facebook jail. I was wondering.
Yeah, so apparently Facebook's very on it these days, and I told him next time he has any trash talking comments, he'll just have to be added to the stream. I was like, you can say him verbally towards us. That seems to
Right.
be fine,
You
because
phone in.
somehow we have not got caught with that over the year, but his
That's
we're
one
not.
comment,
So we can threaten each other, but you
right.
cannot type it in the chat, people.
Yeah.
you cannot.
That might be okay on YouTube's chat. YouTube's like the Wild West, but
Well, and
Facebook,
I even
apparently they're
I even
cracking down.
laughed because after the stream I went through and I loved every comment. So it's like, even there, their data should show that the creators of the page love the comment. Obviously not hate.
Right.
I did
Only in
not read.
chat.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Right.
No,
Right.
we definitely never have tried to use our platform to bring anybody sort of down, or there's even been moments where I've been on one and hit Chase up like, yo, we should go live
Yeah.
right now. And he's like, no, we
I'm ready to
should
say
not
we
go
talked about
live
this
right
the other
now.
day, and
Yeah.
yeah, he's like, let's
And
talk
it's
about this
good.
on Mental Health Monday. It's like, let's not talk about that on a public forum. Let's just, how
No.
about we just have a private conversation about it? You can vent, and then we can take the lessons from this and talk about that on Mental Health Monday.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yes. And it's helped. Like we were talking about earlier, it's really helped just navigate my day-to-day thinking towards
Mhm.
people and with people
Mhm.
through this past year. Try to be more as respectful as I can to everybody. Is kind of like where my mind's at after this whole year of mental health, I guess,
Mhm.
because a majority of it has played into everything we've done.
Mm,
It's true.
that's
It's very
good.
true.
That's good.
Yeah. And as far as, and I've also made to jump back to the previous conversation of relationships and stuff. I've pretty much decided recently that if I wanted to, I got a phone call from somebody recently. It just kind of shook me up a little bit. Somebody that I care about a lot, and
Mm.
that relationship has taught me so much. Even, I mean, we broke up back in 2015, and she's still teaching me things to this day. And eh, I've never loved anybody more than that person. I still love her to this day, and it's one of those things that I said if I really wanted to go the hopeless romantic route, I would just grow old and tell people I loved already. That was it. That was
Mm.
it. Just grow into an old man and be alone the rest of my life.
You gonna
Be like,
notebook it,
I
bro?
had my one. Yep. I think I'm just gonna notebook it.
Just grow
I'll
the
grow
beard
out the
out,
the Gosling beard.
build the house you guys talked about, all that
I'll
good
be the
stuff.
winner here. They'll be like that poor old man. It's like, nah, he lived and
You know,
loved.
to be fair though, if I went down that route in life, I would just be jazzed that I learned how to build a house and stuff like that by the end of it. 'Cause I have no clue how to do that. So if I could figure out how to build a house, that's a
Would be
win.
sad.
If that woman never came around, I'd be like, Psh, I just started building
I learned how to
houses.
build a house. Yeah. So I said I wouldn't be a lonely old man. I would live my life to the fullest. I'm gonna just make the decision. That's the love of my life. I'm never gonna see anybody ever again. I'm just gonna go live the rest of my life to the fullest. And
And be
Mm.
bold.
then
Be
I'll
bold.
tell my nieces and nephews about it someday, and they'll be like, "This is beautiful,
Oh my God,
pure love."
that's
But
good.
it
I
did
thought you
teach
were gonna
me.
talk about like a bad relationship. I'm like, I have one of those. It
Well, I
still
mean, there were
teaches me
bad things
things
that happened in
every
that
day.
relationship, and it's one of those things that recently when we were talking, somebody did, it may have been Shep actually, who said, well, you're only thinking of the good things. And it's like, no, this is the one relationship that I could tell you the bad just as well as the good.
Mm.
But, it's the one relationship where I look back on it and the good was great and the bad was fixable. And we were just so young and we just didn't know anything, and life happened after that and we learned so much. And to know that that love is still there is amazing. And but that taught me about love in a lot of ways, where it's like you can think you're in love with somebody, but in Buddhism they bring it up a lot of when it comes to love, that how you ended a relationship, how you talk about somebody after a relationship
Mm.
plays a big part into how you really felt about this person.
Mm.
And to this day, she's out there living her own life now. She's got a family of her own and everything, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. I'm not jealous. I'm not, I'm thrilled for her. All I want for her is to be happy, and to me that's true love. I'm not selfish about it. I just want what is best for her at
Mm.
all times. uh and I've even said, if that's not what makes her happy, I don't have to be the thing that makes her happy. I just
Mhm.
want her to have a good life because I care about her a lot. And I think that goes a lot farther than, the people that you break up with and you sit there and you roll things over in your head. And it's like, what are you saying about this person though? Do you really feel this way, or do you want them to be happy, or do you just want them to be jealous of you? Do you want them to see you with whoever's new and be like, hey, look how my life's going? It's like, because that's not really love. But
Right. Oh,
all
I
the
get
lessons.
that's that little immaturity. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just that hurt, and hurting people hurt people. So
Yep.
yeah.
Very
Yep.
true. Very true.
Mm.
But
Wow.
this has been the Love Experts on Mental Health Monday.
Interesting, isn't it?
I feel like this was just coming after the past two Mental Health Mondays of people dropping the things about Shep, dropping love advice, and now here we are.
Here we are.
They got it.
Well,
Mm-mm.
I love what you both said about, just some ways to look, some new perspectives to look
Mhm.
at where you're at. And if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling emotional, there are some things that you can do. So
Mhm.
that's an important thing to know, that you are not powerless.
Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important
Yeah.
to focus on the things you can change.
Yes.
One thing to add for the holiday things, because when you guys were talking, I remembered something from when I was a kid. There was a guy, and I wouldn't know if he had kids or not. But he used to go around, like, he'd have a little list that the parents could go and write down their address and the kid's name, and he'd come around on Christmas Eve dressed as Santa and give you a little like treat bag and stuff like that. Come to your house, knock on the door. Of course, your parents would be like, "Yeah, Santa's here, come in." And that was always a cool little thing when I was a little kid. That was like, Santa's definitely going to come by here at some point tonight. He does every year. Where's this
Mhm.
guy at? So I mean, I don't know by today's standards how well that would be
Oh,
received, but I
Nancy, you're
mean,
wearing a mask.
well, I live in a town of 2,600 people, so like a little town like this. I grew up here. If I was old enough, because I've always joked around this past year saying if I start flabbing out and getting out of shape, I'm just going to say I'm preparing for my role as Santa in a few years, coming up. And I think that would be a pretty cool way to end the latter years of life, is to be like, no, I'm going to go around and
Bringing
give
joy.
these,
Yeah.
mhm.
yeah, give
Yeah,
these kids some treat bags and they're going to think I'm Santa. Oh, that's cool. I'd do it.
spread the
Oh,
old
I
Christmas
love
cheer.
that. Yes, I love that. You find different ways to just be creative, bring people joy. That's
Mhm.
awesome. Hmm. Mhm.
Well, any closing thoughts here?
Hmm. I just think one thing that I just want to kind of come full circle on is we are not what we think we are all the times. A lot of times we think we are our circumstances, and we're not. You are not, because an identity can't be changed, right? I mean, it's a solid thing. And so loneliness versus togetherness with somebody, that's something that can be changed. So that's not part of who you are. It's so important to get to the core of who I am and understand that who you are is something that nobody can take away because they didn't give to you.
Mhm.
So it's just really a powerful thing. If you want to start a journey, start there. Find out who you are. Know yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Very
I agree.
true.
I was just telling somebody that the other day. I forget what the circumstance was, but I told them, I said, the easiest way to solve this is to get to know yourself, and know where you stand on these things, and you'll find your answers.
Mm.
My closing thoughts would be: if you start a goal and you don't achieve it, don't beat yourself up too much on it. A good quote from a musician that I like when I always think about that is, if you shoot for the stars, you might end up landing on the moon. And I don't ever think that that's a bad way to look at it, just like that. Take your lessons that you learned on that journey. And just because you didn't get to the destination doesn't mean you failed. The lessons that we've been telling everybody, it's how you go forward from there that's really going to count.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, right. We could be considered constant failures depending on how you want to look at it, but we're really good at rolling with the punches. So,
It depends on what goal you look at. If you look at the
uh-huh.
summer camp, yeah, you could say that. But if you look at the goal that we said we wanted to stream the entire year, we did that. So,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
it's all
One
about.
thing else I just want to add is start chronicling your own journey, even if it's as simple. I have this one younger lady. She's in high school or middle school, I think, even, and she just puts a heart next to the day and she colors it in depending on her mood that day, so she can see her trend. It's so important. And on my shelf, I have probably 16 at this point journals over
Hmm.
the last however long, because there are days that I don't want to get out of bed. I mean, those days exist for
Hmm.
everybody. I don't want to get out of bed. I'll wake up and I say, have I grown at all? And flipping back and just looking and reflecting. So it is important, I think, to record your journey. Then it's not going to be great. It's not going to be like a Hollywood movie, but it's an authentic, real journey. And I
Hmm.
think that's what's really important, is just understanding that it is a journey. There's, you're every day, you're getting up and you're starting something new, and it's something to be proud of. It's
Mhm.
worth writing down. It is
Mhm.
worth writing down. And it is an important thing because, oh my goodness, if you don't know anyone older, you can, find somebody and ask them how their memory is. It is important to have the
Totally.
record of this.
Yeah. Yeah, something you just said as well reminded me that a few months back I jotted down a note to myself that said, "You don't have to be perfect. You just got to be better."
Mm,
And that be better is just on your own scale. Be better than
yeah.
yourself yesterday. Be better in this circumstance. You don't have to be the best. You just have to be a little better,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
eventually you'll get there.
That's
Mhm.
awesome.
But,
Very much so.
well,
Thank you
great to
again
have you
for,
back.
yeah, showing up.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great to have you back. Another Mental Health Monday in the books. We're about to close out the year. Um, Shep, anything else we need to do?
I don't believe so, man. I think there's only the one left before the end of the year after this one, right?
I think
Something
so.
like that. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. I almost said Halloween. On Christmas is on a Saturday. So yes, there should be at least one more. So go check out everybody's pages and like our stuff, subscribe to everybody's stuff, share it.
Mhm.
We're all here. We're all trying to make it.
All right. We'll have all the links down there.
We'll
And
link
of
them up.
course, chaseandshep.com, where you can find everything always. Well, that'll do it. Mental Health Monday.
Peace. Good week.